science.
The fight is that the blood of 1,000 men and women was spilled in these walls. Limbs twisted and broken. Eyes gouged from bloody sockets. Flesh burned black.
Please. No way to death. In death, there are no accidents, no coincidences, no mishaps, and no escapes. What you have to realize is that we're all just a mouse that a cat has by the tail.
The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-public number.
Warning, the following show contains conservative posturing, radical Christian ideas, and may offend pagans, Wiccans, Islamic fundamentalists, and other unenlightened individuals. Callers and guests may be subjected to brash and offensive comments by the hosts and any other type of bullying tactics available. But that's okay. We know why you're here.
This concludes this test of the emergency broadcast system.
Tonight is Monday, August 13th, 2007.
What? What? What a way to start the show.
Exactly.
What?
This is Jay Scott.
This is Trey Lackey.
You're listening to World of the Unexplained. Tonight, we have a show that many of you have been waiting for. Colonel Jesse Marcel Jr.
For quite some time.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
It's gonna be
Son
good.
of the famous Jesse Marcel of the Roswell.
And we're going to get to him
incident.
in a little bit. Probably in about, 7 minutes or so.
Okay.
But until then, we'll just go on our random chat.
You know, listen, I'm going to have a PSA. I am.
Go for it.
I am, because apparently nobody in this room knew about it. Even legalized Cody over there. That would be you, Scott.
Legalize Cody?
Yeah, legalize. Not legalize somebody named Cody, but legalize as in eagle eyes. Oh, it takes too long.
Okay.
Anyway, listen, if you're buying a new car, make sure when you get the insurance and you say full coverage, get something called gap insurance. What that does is basically cover the extent of the loan in case your vehicle happens to have a collision. I'm just pointing it out because apparently insurance companies don't want to tell you that for whatever reason. That's my PSA.
Because they're evil.
Yeah, it's called gap insurance. Check it out. Make sure you see it. It's very serious because otherwise if you don't have it...
They just give you value for the car.
Value for the car, which will be less than...
What your payoff is.
Yeah. I mean, it's as simple as that. You know, your car devalues, and eventually the value will be less than the loan that you paid for it. It's a vicious cycle. But anyway,
those depreciating things.
Yeah, just gap insurance. Just check it out. Make sure that you look for it because
it's not something you get through the Gap store.
Apparently, because it covers the gap between the value of the car and the value of the loan.
I understand.
But apparently, nobody else here knew about it, including myself. And it's just, something you need to check out. Okay, I'm done with my PSA.
I heard Chuck's buddy Carl Rove resigned today.
Oh, surprise.
The brain behind Bush. Oh, Lord, help us.
How many months do we have of them left? Oh, my gosh. Well,
I just find it interesting that all these states are moving up, these primaries. It's just really... it's like, I'm really sick. Honestly, I know Chuck's not because he lives politics, but
yeah,
I'm really sick of having to hear about it. It's just like every year it gets, more. Yeah, it gets worse and worse, and every year they start sooner and sooner. And it's going to come to a point where someone wins the election, and then the campaign trail's hitting next month. February.
That's how congressmen are already because of the 2-year term.
Yeah, that's true.
That does make a good point. Yeah, Congress, but for the presidency, I mean, come on.
There should be some kind of guidelines.
We know Chuck's voting for Obama.
Did you hear about that thing where he was singing?
No.
Yeah, he was doing karaoke.
He was karaoke or something, but in Spanish.
I did hear an interesting clip.
That was kind of weird.
I did hear an interesting clip earlier today about Cheney's. It was back in 1990 something or other. I think 97, 98. Cheney talking about, the reason that we didn't go in and take Saddam the first time. Was because it would, upset the stability in the Middle East. And that it would be it would be really bad. And, you know, and now it's like, it's just, God.
Yeah, you know, it doesn't make any
Insert
sense.
foot in mouth. Huh?
Did you hear anything about the stuff about that was going on for Darfur and stuff?
Darfur, no.
Oh, sending military people to Darfur, that would be an incredibly huge mistake, I think. It would be just like, well, look what happened in Somalia. You know, I think, you know, that's a totally different ball game, and that requires a huge amount of preparation and planning, and we already realize with Iraq and Afghanistan that this administration is just not very good at preparing.
I say we
for,
go after Iran.
You know.
They're the root of the problem.
Yeah, but I mean, not with all your
they're the
troops.
Nazis, and they've got Hitler there. I can't even pronounce the guy's name. Ahmadinejad. Ahmadinejad.
Ahmadinejad.
Whatever.
Is that
It's
what
one
you
of-
said?
I don't know.
He has one. He's a
I
president
got it
of
pretty close, but yeah, this
Ahmadinejad.
guy's Hitler. He's Hitler. I mean, he's basically came out and said it. You know what? He's got the same ideology though. So
Well,
anyway, what a
well, I mean, it doesn't matter now.
evil
but-
people like that are world dictators.
Well, the thing about it is, I mean, the thing about dictatorships that no one seems to realize is the fact that once you topple a dictatorship, all of a sudden, all hell's going to break loose for quite some time, you know, because they had all that control and authority, and the authority's gone, and people were just running amok. Look what happened to the fall in the Iron Curtain. You know, look at all the crap that happened in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Stuff happened in Eastern Europe. I mean, that's a clear example of a dictatorship, a solid police state that gets toppled.
That's
and
true.
look what
That's true.
happens, you know? I mean, it's not, that only happened like 10 years before this.
And now the jihadis have a hold of the of the nukes. Like,
I'm not
like
sa-
our interview with Paul Williams.
Yeah, it's not like a support of dictatorships. I'm just saying when you approach them and if you're trying to destroy them, you have to do it in a very careful way. Otherwise, this stuff's going to happen. And
We'll have the nukes when Obama bombs them.
Obama.
yeah,
What was it? I heard another reporter
So-
ask Hillary Clinton if she thought she was black enough. Can you believe that the questions are getting to this juvenile of a level because everybody is always wondering if Obama was black enough?
Yeah, do you have a
I mean,
crush on
come
me?
on.
Check yes or no.
Come on. I mean, let's get to the real issues here, people.
Wife is the Swiss, or is not his wife. His mother is the Swiss Miss girl.
His mother's the Swiss Miss
Who?
girl? Who? Obama's?
Yeah, she's from Sweden.
She's from Sweden, okay.
His dad is an African immigrant.
Oh, his dad is an
From Africa.
really from Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No joke.
Well, Barack Obama, Scott.
Yeah,
you know,
well,
that's
I didn't think about
that's
it.
a
you know.
fairly African
Anyway,
name.
point is, we're going to get off our political row for now and bring on someone that we've been waiting a long time to hear
is
from.
right.
Welcome to World of the Unexplained, Colonel Marcel Jr. How are you?
Very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing
Excellent.
great.
Can you hear us? Okay.
Yeah, it's not really good, but I can hear you.
Okay. We'll tinker with it for a little while.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, Jesse, may I call you Jesse?
Sure. Yes.
All right. Well, Jesse, it's a pleasure having you on the show, and we can't wait to delve into your story, the real story, and how it all went down. Now, I noticed that you had made the claim on your book that this is the only official story. Has there been any problems with others trying to usurp that and trying to get out the story before you were ready for it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm not saying this is the only official story, but this is my story.
Yeah.
Yeah, my official story, not the official story of the UFO thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, take us back to Roswell.
Okay. Where do you want to go with it? I'm a little confused as what you were looking for. Okay. Roswell is a nice town. I enjoyed living there. I was going through grade school and had a very enjoyable time there with my friends. And my dad was the base intelligence officer at the 509th Squadron at Roswell Army Airfield. And I guess he was called out one night. No, I guess he was called out one night to research some debris or pick up some debris that had fallen on this rancher's land about 75 miles northwest of Roswell. And when he got out there, he took a CIC agent with him. CIC, I think, was the forerunner of the CIA. And his job as the intelligence officer was to investigate any unusual air activities. And this rancher did find something very strange on this ranch land. And it wasn't a weather balloon because he'd already picked those up before. So he called the sheriff at Chavez County, who then contacted Colonel Blanchard, the base commander, who then dispatched my dad and the CIC agent out there. And they picked up a bunch of debris and brought it by the house.
Huh. So how old were you when this was going on?
I was 11 years old at the time.
What did you think of all this as an 11-year-old?
Well, it was, when my dad came in, it was really late at night. I'd been asleep for several hours, as was my mother, and he woke us up and he said, "I want to show you something, something very unusual." And he was very excited about this, so his excitement sort of was catching. So I walked into the kitchen where he had put this debris on the floor. My mother was already there. She was already kind of looking at this stuff, and it didn't really look that strange to me, just a lot of foil debris, and there's some beams and some black plastic material, almost like a dark bakelite. And he said, "Look at it very carefully, because this may be parts of what I think he said a flying saucer." And that immediately kind of caught my attention, as a flying saucer was something unusual. I knew that there had been reports of a lot of strange sightings of machines flying through the air all over the United States, and he led me to believe this is the crash of one of those things.
Wow!
And that's where it got started.
So I can only imagine, what that does to the mind of an 11-year-old boy, thinking about all the possibilities.
Oh yeah. Well, he said, "Look at this, because you'll probably never see it again." Of course, he was right there.
Yeah.
Never see anything like that again. And I guess the first thing he wanted us to do is to look for any electronic components, like vacuum tubes, resistors, condensers, wire, which there wasn't anything like that there. Just a strange metallic foil-like material with the beams.
So this you never physically saw these pieces again?
No. We looked at it for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then I guess we boxed it back up, brought it out to the car, our 1942 Buick. I think there's still some debris in the car that he did not bring in. And I'm not sure whether he left for the base at that time or wait till early the next morning, but I understood that he brought it in for Colonel Blanchard, the base commander, to look at this. And he also recognized this as something very unusual. And he said, the Roger Ramey, who was General Ramey, the 8th Air Force commander at Fort Worth Army Airfield, needs to see this too. So he had my dad fly this under armed guard in a B-29. So obviously we're not talking about balloon wreckage or radar targets. It was something very strange. And he brought it into to General Ramey so he could look at this also.
Now I'm looking in your book at some of these the I-beams that it looks like a bunch of hieroglyphics.
Yes.
This design, and this was on the debris itself.
Yeah, that was the I-beams are look like beams to me. That had this kind of writing along the inner edge of it, as you see depicted in the book, and they were had a very definite coloration. They were purple violet hue, kind of reflective of light, and but very strange writing. It's not hieroglyphics, but more like geometric forms or geometric symbols of some kind. Just written along the inside edge of this beam.
Now, from Fort Worth, the wreckage went on somewhere else. What happened to it, and where'd your dad part ways with it? Well,
my understanding is that General Ramey had this brought into or flown to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base for further inspection. And there are some pictures of my dad kneeling on General Ramey's floor, holding some wreckage, which was supposed to be the stuff from Roswell, but it wasn't. It was very clearly parts of a weather balloon with the radar target. And my dad was made to look at this and show this as the example of the wreckage that was found out on that rancher's land, which is totally false.
Yeah, because if I understand this correctly, and I can't remember the name of the place, but your father was in charge of intelligence over there at the nuclear test sites over in Bikini Islands, and they used weather balloons there.
He was out there. I knew he participated in the 1946 Bikini test, Abel and Baker test.
Right, but they had weather balloons there, out there all the time, to test wind patterns to see where the fallout would go.
Yeah.
So I mean, clearly he would know where the he would know what a weather balloon would be as
opposed
to that stuff.
Well, he'd actually had training in radar targets before all this happened, so he knew what a radar target looked like. And I assure you, had this been just a radar target, he probably would not have even brought it in, but just taken it to a nearest trash can. and disposed of it that way. But that's not what this was.
Yeah, certainly.
There's talk that these, at least Chuck's pointing out to me now, that this hieroglyphics, going back to the I-beams, I'm sorry to jump around, but that these may have been, that the U.S. government claims it was some kind of adhesive tape.
Oh, yeah, that's a funny thing. You know, it was explained to me later that this simply was flowers on Scotch tape that was used to affix the aluminum foil to balsa wood sticks. And you know, that's laughable because that's not what this was. I mean, I recognize. I would not. You know, I knew what balsa wood. I built balsa wood models, kites, and things like that. And I would have certainly recognized Scotch tape with flowers on it, but that's not what this was. This was something far different from that.
Yeah.
Now, I've heard this before from someone who I can't disclose because they don't like to talk about this to many people.
Right.
And this person that I know is an older gentleman, and he claims to have been at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and he claims that is where this stuff went, and that he knew someone that brought it over there.
Yeah, I don't know who flew it to Wright-Patterson, but my understanding is that it went from Fort Worth to Wright-Patterson, and of course there was a lot of debris left out there on the rancher's land that was later gathered up and then probably transported to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Now, there's also I'm sorry.
I think it was flown on a C-54, so there's a lot of debris there.
Well, there's also a picture of your father here in your book holding weather balloon fragments in a stage photograph.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly a staged photograph because that's where the cover-up began. And my dad later confessed that, well, he was part of the cover-up because he went along with it. He was just simply following orders, you know, that this was to be not disclosed to anybody.
Well, this is the late 1940s, you know. Men were men, you know. I mean, America was wonderful, you know. You did.
Oh yeah, you betcha. And you know what my dad did with my mother and myself is when he came back from Fort Worth, he sat us down and told us under no uncertain terms were we ever to discuss what happened that night. Yeah. Never talk about this again because he said treat it like a non-event. Of course, here I'm talking about it, but
well, you know,
yeah, I mean,
times have changed.
Something so remarkable like that. I mean, you can't clearly not talk about it.
So I never talked about it with my friends ever, you know, and even when I was in the Navy, I never talked about it because that the message was still clearly in my mind.
Did you wait until, did you start talking about it after your father later had recanted the whole thing about the weather balloon business?
You know, I guess he started talking about it in 1978 with Stanton Friedman, who was a researcher who had heard that rumors to the effect that he had some UFO debris or something like that. And I really didn't even talk about it then, but it was not until after he died in '86 that people started coming to me and saying, hey, what is he talking about? So here I am disclosing what he said.
Yeah, I guess another question I would have about that would be, you know, it happened in '47, and then of course he talked to Stanton Friedman almost 30 years later. I mean, why wait that long? You know, for him to change his mind and tell the truth.
Well, I guess he figured that maybe by 30 years later it's time to talk about it, but that people needed to know that really the true event there.
Yeah.
But he did kind of hold on to it for 30 years.
Did he get harassed by the government in the late 70s when he started telling this information?
Not to my knowledge. You know, he was treated kindly by the Air Force and by the Army Air Force, and I don't think he ever had any recriminations on their part.
Yeah.
Well, what about you yourself? Have you had any kind of backlash from the story?
No, not at all. You know, I've been promoted through the ranks, and I've had good assignments, and I've enjoyed my military career, and there's never been any recriminations about me. As a matter of fact, the senior officer I served with, including flag rank officers, would come to me and ask me, what is this all about?
Wow. So now you're a physician in the Army, is that correct?
When you have a 2-star general asking you what was this what is this, you tell him what your knowledge is.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm a flight surgeon in the Army and National Guard. Yes.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm looking at a reconstruction of a telegram photo also in your book here, talking about the disc.
Yeah.
And let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to put it together. It's pretty. Now, how was this recreated?
Well, I think when Bon Johnson, he was the photographer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. He was one who was assigned to take pictures of the debris in General Ramey's office. And he took that very famous photograph of my dad too. And it just so happens that when General Ramey was kneeling down by this wreckage, he had a telegram or some sort of message, electronic message, in his hand, and it happened to be facing the. Believe that, and
oh wow,
and by computer analysis, David Rudiak, who's a pretty sharp guy, took that and he computer and came up with some of the words on that telegram, like victims of the wreck, the crash disk, so forth and so on. So we're not talking about a weather balloon.
Huh. Well, we're gonna have to take a short break. Colonel Jesse Marcel Jr. with us tonight. If you'll hang tight with us, Jesse, we'll be right back here.
Okay.
Guys, you can call in 877-722-7382. That's toll free in the U.S. and Canada. That's 877-SCARE-YOU2. And speak with Jesse Marcel Jr. about Roswell. We'll be right back on World of the Unexplained after this.
We are World of the Unexplained. Tonight we have Jesse Marcel Jr., author of The Roswell Legacy. Guys, you want to call in. Here are the numbers: 1-877-722-7382 or 1-877-SCARE-YOU2 if you'd like to type in letters instead of numbers. The local number is 336-996-1596, and I believe Scott had some kind of question about, little green men.
Oh, yeah, little green men. Well, you hear so many stories of alien life being found on these crashed vessels. What do you know of that?
Well, I have no personal knowledge of that because I think, from my understanding, there's actually the debris field that my dad was associated with, but several miles away was where the main body of the craft came down, and another expedition went out to recover that. And the way the Air Force did, they compartmentalized it. Like if you're associated with one site, you have no knowledge of the other site. And the guys are separated, so you can't compare notes, so you can't put the whole story together. And apparently that's where, if there were bodies there, that's where they were. I don't know if my dad ever saw them. He never mentioned it to him, but there's some feeling now that he really did see it, and he just did not disclose it to me.
Do you know who was in charge of that other operation?
No, I don't. I was not in the loop to know.
Oh, I see.
Do you think that there was any kind of technology aboard that craft that we reverse engineered to get some of the stuff we've got today?
Well, there's a lot of people say, yes, we did reverse engineer some of this, at least some of the simpler parts of it. Who knows? Because I think the craft would have been so complex, it'd almost be like giving a digital wristwatch to Galileo and having him to reproduce it. I don't think he could, but maybe there are parts of it that we could have done that.
What do you think? What do you think caused this vessel to crash?
Well, it's hard to say. They say, well, he travels light years through space and then comes to crash to grief on the planet Earth, and that just doesn't make any sense. But unless my thought was that maybe this was a kind of like a disposable probe of some kind that was sent here to gather information, and then if he lost it, no big deal. And so-called alien bodies, if that's where they were just simple clones that were disposable. That's going on far-fetched.
Well, no, I mean, I guess it's definitely a plausible theory, because you would think about it, if it was really of some value to an extraterrestrial being, they would probably want to, pick up what they dropped off,
Yeah, because I know they're pretty interested in New Mexico, because that's where 1945, April 16, 1945, where the atomic bomb was first tested.
Right.
And we have a lot of rocket research out there. Werner von Braun was out there, building rockets that eventually got us to the moon.
Yeah, I mean, extraterrestrials definitely be interested in.
I think so.
In that kind of technology.
They want to see what this upstart civilization is doing. Because with our warlike tendencies, we might pose more of a danger to them than.
That's true. That's not the invasion of Mars; it's the invasion of Earth. You know.
What do you think of Bob Lazar?
I don't know that much about him. I've heard pros and cons from all sides of the issues on him, but I just have not really made up my mind about him because I just don't know.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's one answer there, but that's the truth. I just don't know.
I noticed that Stanton Friedman wrote your foreword, or wrote the foreword for this book, and
Yes.
and we've had Stanton on the show before, and I think Chuck was telling me that Stanton's not a big fan of Bob Lazar, so that's why I was wondering what your thoughts were.
He's not really a Bob Lazar booster, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So how long have you known Stanton?
Oh, I've known him for years. He's a good friend of the family, actually, and I don't know. I've known him for 10, 15 years, or maybe more.
Wow. So I guess you've spent many hours reliving all of this stuff.
Oh yeah. He's been out to our house here in Montana, and we had dinner with him, and so he's a close personal friend of mine.
I just actually Dee brought up this question, but your father didn't actually take any personal pictures of this wreckage when he brought it to the house at any moment.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish we had a digital camera back then, but we didn't. That'd have been nice.
Yeah. I mean, do you think he did it out of trying to keep it secure, or he just didn't have a camera
when he realized what this was, he probably realized this was a very secure item, and the fact that he brought it by the house meant at that moment it was not classified. Had that been classified, he would have never brought it by the house.
Yeah, that would make sense.
And of course, we did not have a camera available then.
Now, what do you make of the government cover-up? Why do you think that this is something they wanted hush-hush?
Yeah, I wish I knew. I don't think there's any reason for them to be so closed about this thing, because, look at what the Hubble telescope is discovering, planetary systems all over out there with we have not found any Earth-like planets yet, but that's just a matter of time. And we have the SETI program with Shostak. He's listening for radio signals, and I think he will find radio signals to be sure, because they're out there.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time, really.
I'm just trying to think back.
I had no idea why our government is keeping this thing closed, because I think people have a right to know.
Well, Dee had asked maybe if it had something to do with the bombing, the Pearl Harbor and things like that. I myself am wondering. I'm trying to remember the date that the great radio and War of the Worlds.
Oh, that was like in the 20s or 30s.
In the 30s.
Okay, well, this will make perfect sense then. If people freaked out so bad in the 30s, maybe they were covering it up in the 40s because they didn't want that same kind of.
It was Orson Welles' Mercury Theater of the Air that broadcast that in the middle 30s.
Yeah. Or maybe there was Cold War politics involved about it. I don't know why they would,
There's a lot of factors. And, the fact is, we talk about the United States government, but there are other governments have the same kind of information. I know the Russian government has the same kind of stuff, but they're keeping it close to their chest also. So what, if you believe in a conspiracy, then you have to say that the conspiracy extends to other governments too, not just the United States.
Yeah, that would make sense. And also, if you use the same kind of theory of them sending a probe to investigate our nuclear test sites, that surely around the same time, the Soviets blew theirs up in 49 or something like that, that they would definitely be over there looking at what they had too, But yeah, the conspiracy is definitely global for sure.
Yeah.
What do you think? There's too many people that have seen too many things, and in today's multimedia, super fast society with everyone having a video camera, you're finally seeing more and more of this captured all over the world, here in the United States and Mexico and Canada, overseas. Do you think that we're getting closer to the United States government and some of the other governments in the world coming out and admitting, hey, here's the truth?
Yeah, I think so, because there's been some pretty amazing photographs taken that be pretty hard to fake. Unfortunately, we do have guys out there with the computers faking photographs, but some of the photographs that came about before computers were popular are very intriguing. Some of those are not faked. Like in 1954, 55, there was the International Geophysical Year off the coast of Brazil. A boatload of scientists took pictures of a classic disk, and for sure that was not faked.
What do you think of the mirror contacts?
The mirror?
Yeah, Bobby, is it Bobby Muir? Billy
Meyer.
Billy Meyer, excuse me.
Meyer.
Yeah. What do you think about some of those photos? Have you seen them?
I have to kind of, look the other way, I think.
Okay.
I'm very dubious about those photographs.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
I can understand that.
And that brings up a very important issue, that
Throw a hubcap in the air and take a picture of it.
yeah, you can see the string that the thing is attached to. But, that causes more harm to the whole thing than good because...
I wish people wouldn't do that. They're destroying the story when they do that.
Yeah.
And, some of those photographs are just, obviously fakes.
Yeah, they want a piece of the fame, I guess, or personal fame for whatever reason.
Lonely people, I guess, who want to attract attention to themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever seen a UFO yourself personally?
I can't say I have. I have about 3,500 hours in a helicopter, both day and night, and I never have seen anything I could say for sure, but, I've seen some strange things. Like one night, in Iraq, we were flying from Kirkuk back to Balad near Baghdad at night, and I saw a light going through the sky, and it was too late for a satellite to be visible, and I knew it wasn't a civilian aircraft because we were flying under hostile fire conditions, and we were blacked out. So I don't know what that was, but it's some sort of light just going through the sky, just barely as would be there.
Wow.
And,
what about some of your buddies in the military? Any of those guys claim to have seen something?
Yeah, I have had people say that. Well, they've seen something they sure could not identify, and I said, well, I have empathy there because I know that there's some strange stuff out there.
Yeah.
But I can't say I've really seen anything that I could really for sure say.
Right.
A light in the sky, just a light in the sky.
Yeah, that's pretty much where you have to leave it, more or less.
I think that the history of the UFO, especially with testimony of police officers that have claimed to see this stuff, radio transmissions that you hear. Even in Charlotte, we were talking about this. How long's it been?
Was in February.
A few months ago.
I think it was in February where
there was a picture on the front page of the Charlotte Observer of this supposed UFO. And, it was right there on the front page. They'd had over 100 911 calls in the period of like 2 hours about this thing in the sky. And, I don't remember what the official explanation was for it, but it wasn't, yes, it's a UFO. So,
it was a weather balloon.
Yeah.
It was a glow-in-the-dark weather balloon.
The Phoenix lights are something pretty strange and spectacular. And I guess there was a sighting over O'Hare Airport not too long ago. That photograph.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Of something very classically a disc. And it's seen by many people. So yes, they're out there, and I just wait for them to come down and say hello.
Yeah.
I've got a question in the chat room to ask you to discuss the flower Aoki figures.
Oh, they're talking about the masking tape.
They're going back to the I-beams that you were talking about.
Oh,
I guess they want a better description of what this thing looks like. I can't really give that. It looks like a bunch of different things.
Yeah. Well, I have pictures in my book of a pretty remarkable replication of this. There's a Miller Johnson, an artist in Albuquerque, who got all the information from me and he fabricated one that looks almost identical to what I saw, except but the writing itself was just impression. I remember what it looked like, but I don't remember the exact figures, except maybe one. There was one figure that I could attach to a familiar object, like there's like a truncated pyramid with a ball on top of it, and it reminded me of a seal balancing a ball on its nose.
Oh.
And that's the one I do recall. And there's others. The others out there just kind of look basically like that. Maybe some are exact, maybe not. But and memory kind of changes things a little bit too as time goes on.
Yeah,
but that's
obviously
basically what they look like.
Yeah, that brings up we've never really talked to a guy about this phenomenon, but speaking of strange geometric objects, what do you make of crop circles?
Yeah, well, somebody asked me if I could maybe draw any similarities with crop circles, and maybe so. They're all kind of geometric symbols, and maybe some are pretty close to it.
Yeah, it would make sense. If these symbology that's on the wreckage of the Roswell, if their language is based off of geometric shapes,
yeah, really, and But I definitely know they were not flowers on Scotch tape. I want to get that down.
Yeah.
You want to put them on the record for that.
They were not flowers.
I was trying to stake through that heart there. It was not flowers on Scotch tape.
No.
As a matter of fact, to show you how they're, up to fairly recently, they're still trying to make me change my story, because in 1997 I went down to Roswell for the 50th anniversary, I guess. And we went through Socorro because we'd gotten a call from somebody said, you go through Socorro because the Bill Moore, who's the project manager of Mogul, is in Socorro. And you call him when you get there because he's going to bring up one of the radar targets by your motel room. So I did, and he did, and I said, sir, Professor, this is not what I saw. He said, well, I think it was. Well, no, it wasn't what I saw, because what he showed me was diagrams of flowers on Scotch tape with paperback foil, and it was not what it was. But I could not come around to the side. I just can't. I know what I saw, and I know what I didn't see.
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, and especially at that young age. I mean, it's so kids have such an impressionable memory too. Mm-hmm. And that's just. I mean, I know I have things from my memory. I think we all do. Just things that are so remarkable. That you can't really forget them. Years after the fact, and even though
it's an event that kind of stays with you.
Yeah, I mean, and sure, memory tends to kind of distort the images or the fine lines, but you still have the same picture, regardless.
Yeah, exactly. Well, even getting down to the description of the foil, the foil that I saw on our kitchen floor was not paper-backed, but all the radar targets have paper-backed foil. Mm-hmm. And I asked Professor Moore, in our motel room, I said, look, Professor, the foil in our kitchen did not have paper on it. I said, did you all use any targets that did not have paper on it? And he said, no, they didn't. He thought the Navy might have used some non-paper-backed foil, but all the foil out there on their radar balloons radar targets was paper-backed. So there's a big difference right there.
Yeah, certainly.
Now, you see all this stuff. What do you think? I know the government still wants to say it's a down weather balloon and all this, but I want to know, is there still something there, do you think? I know Chuck a few years ago had the opportunity of going out to Roswell.
It wasn't Roswell.
Oh, it wasn't Roswell. Rachel, Nevada. Okay. Mm-hmm. But I know when people go to Roswell, when people go to places like that are supposedly visitation sites, the government's got it closed up, and you'll see those black SUVs coming down the road if you get too close.
Well, I agree with some secrecy, of course. That's where we do a lot of major research on experimental aircraft, and I don't think we want to divulge all our secrets to the world as far as experimental aircraft.
Yeah.
Now, whether there's any extraterrestrial connotation there, I don't know. Maybe there is, but that may be where the stealth bomber, fighters and things like that, F-117s were developed.
Okay, Jesse, we've got Ron on the line from Raleigh, North Carolina. What's up, Ron? How's it going?
Hey, it's going pretty good, Jay. How are you?
Doing good. Good to hear from you.
Same here, man.
Yep.
It looks like it's shaping up to be a great show. I got a couple questions. The first one was for Mr. Marcel. When he was with the 198th Attack Helicopter Battalion in Iraq, did you hear anybody discussing reports of any UFO activity? Like, everybody knows what stealth aircraft is, but was there anything truly unexplained? I guess people have done so much flying, and with all the night vision, did they ever see anything that they had no idea what it was?
Well, once we got out of hostile fire areas, the conversation would go along those lines, but I don't think anybody ever saw anything that they weren't sure about, maybe some unusual stuff, but the aircrew members, we would discuss UFOs and flying saucers, but I don't think none of the people I talked with had any idea of anything really strange.
Oh.
The other one was, what's otolaryngology? I don't think I pronounced that right. Your specialty for the Veterans Administration. Could you explain a little bit about that and what that is?
Otolaryngology? Well,
yeah, sure. Say it a little bit slower. You say it too fast.
Okay.
Like you said it 1,000 times.
Okay, it's a combination of several words put together. Oto means ear, rhino means nose, laryngology means the throat. So it's ear, nose, and throat.
I got you. Okay.
Okay, you're your nose and throat doctor. This makes a lot more sense now. I just pretended like I knew what he was talking about and rolled with the program. Yes, of course.
Well, don't you think that's a little remarkable with all the people that are flying in very open helicopters at exactly the right altitude with hundreds and hundreds of hours to look around through night vision goggles and no one ever saw anything that they couldn't identify?
Yeah, thousands of hours. Well,
I mean,
like I said,
it
I
seems
think
like if there's something out there, they would see it. I don't know. What can you see at night? If you've flown a lot, can you see, like, satellites going by with night vision goggles? Can you see things in space or what?
Oh, yeah. Using night vision goggles, you can see an awful lot of stuff out there. You can see the exhaust from other aircraft, and certainly you can see satellites if it's early enough to see them because they're, with the sun reflecting off of them. But so far, you're right. I don't know that anybody, if they saw anything, they didn't really tell me about it. Maybe they didn't want to know about it, but.
It's like don't tell that guy. We know his stories.
That's true.
I thought you're the guy they would come to, right? Like the flight surgeon. That's the first guy you have to tell, or the first guy they send you to if you said you saw anything, right?
Yeah. Well, I've trained observers, the airline pilots who really have, they're afraid to talk about it, but after they retire, they do talk about experiences of strange aircraft or a strange craft in the sky. But I guess if you're on active duty, you don't really want to say very much about it.
Not until later.
Yeah. Are there medical conditions that make you see things like bright lights in front of you that would keep you from flying, like legitimate stuff?
Well, you're very careful about medications if they're used, and of course they're given the first-class eye examination, so their vision is about as perfect as possible. And night vision goggles, can amplify light. They are light amplifiers, as you know, and you can get distorted visions from them. But as far as naked eye observations, I don't know. Like I said, I've never seen anything myself.
Okay, well, Ron, thanks for calling in.
Hey, it's no problem. Last question would be, tell a story from the Cold War. What was the Cuban Missile Crisis like? I see that on the guest slot.
Oh,
I'm sure you got something exciting to say about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, Ron. We appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, guys. Have a great one.
All right, you too.
All right. Guys, the chat room for some reason keeps going dead on me. So I'm gonna switch to the other chat room, the old chat room. If you click on the archives link, I believe this will take you to the KarmaCast chat room that we used to use. I'm gonna jump in there because it keeps kicking me out. And I can't see what you guys are writing because obviously I keep getting kicked out. Hopefully you guys can re-register at karmacast.com.
It's the government, Stooges.
And I think, it's the government, man.
It's happening and kicking it, stopping the conversation. Just kidding. Stupid. Scott?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, now you go through a big series in here about this weather balloon idea that the government is trying to launch on the people about what this thing was. Obviously, we know something happened there, and I guess this is the best way to cover it up. Why do you think they chose a weather balloon?
Well, because the radar target would come close to the description of some of the debris, and so I guess they kind of wanted to get something that could be confused with that, and a weather balloon and a radar target, which was where they were flying plenty of out there, and the mogul balloons, because the radar target could be confused with this, but there are some very distinctive differences between that and what I saw, what other people have seen.
Now, you talk about the government focusing their story on flight number 4, which was launched on June the 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us more about flight number 4?
Well, I think, supposedly, the flight path took you very close to where the debris field was found, but other people doing more research said no, it was not even close to that. So I just try to cover all sides of the issue there. But whether it was over there or not, it came down. It was not. That was not what came down to Earth there. It was flight. It was not a mogul balloon or the radar target there.
Now, if I understand correctly, I can't exactly remember this or not, but the papers put a story out. I think it was even the New York Times. I mean, prior to the weather balloon explanation that they went ahead and said, "Oh, it's the UFO." I mean, am I right about that? And why did they go ahead and shoot those stories out there?
Well, I guess when the material came to the air base, with Colonel Blanchard, he asked Walter Howard, who was the public information officer out there, to submit a press release about the flying saucer, that the Air Force has recovered a flying saucer. And this got all over the world, though. It was over the teletype lines, and my dad even got people in China calling him about this thing. But then when the debris got to the Air Force Base in Fort Worth, General Williams says, we got to cover this up because we don't know what this is. And that's when they killed the story. That's when the cover story of a weather balloon came out.
Yeah.
All right, we've got a caller, but we're going to have to take a break. So, Ben, if you'll hang on from Missouri, hang tight with us, and we'll get to you after the break. We're going to take a 5-minute break at the top of the hour here. You're listening to World of the Unexplained. Tonight, our guest is Colonel and Doctor, Colonel Doctor. I'm not sure how that works. Jesse Marcel Jr. Please give us a call here, 877-722-7382. That's 877-SCARE-U2, toll free in the United States and Canada, or locally 336-996-1596. You're listening to World of the Unexplained, and we'll be back after this.
And we're back, World of the Unexplained. We got Jesse Marcel Jr. on tonight, the Roswell legacy, and we also have a caller. It's Ben from Missouri. Ben, go ahead.
Hello. Earlier you were talking about other governments having evidences of UFOs and aliens and whatnot. And I was just wondering if you could expound upon that, give examples of maybe if there was a Russian Roswell or incident in South America or something like that.
Well, back in 1990 or 91, I was at a teleconference in Washington with... They had satellite communication with some scientists in Russia. As a matter of fact, the Russian ambassador was in the audience. And they talked about their experiences, too. And they had kind of made it known that through the spirit of glasnost, they'd like to work together with the United States government on this. But to my knowledge, that did not happen. So yeah, I think they have a lot of the same ideas and concerns that we have.
No, there was a government that came out.
It was France.
Okay.
France actually released their UFO knowledge.
What do you think about that? Do you think that's going to spur some more people on to bringing this more into the forefront?
Well, I think the more it's released and comes out, I think the pressure will build up on the other world governments to come out and divulge what they know about this thing, so that hopefully it'll all come out in the wash, so to speak. That the beans will be spilled, and people will realize that we're not alone, that there's many other civilizations out there, and certainly more advanced civilizations than we are.
But it's France. I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, Ben, you got anything else for us tonight?
No, that was it. Thanks.
All right, well, thanks for calling in, buddy. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Ben.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, France. Of course it's going to be France.
Well, what about let's see, another proto-superpower.
Chuck's pointing to the screen. Canadian Paul Hellyer, former Canadian Minister of Defense, discusses UFO cover-up on MSNBC with Bowtie himself, Tucker Carlson. All right.
He dropped the bow tie there.
He dropped the bow tie. That's good. There's a young lawyer in one of the counties I practice in. He's probably about my age. Yeah, he's my age. He's early 30s. And he wears a bow tie. It is the most ridiculous.
Is it polka dotted, and does it spin around?
It's always screaming, man.
Yeah.
It's Tucker Carlson's fault.
Yeah. He made the bow tie popular again.
I tell you what, I just think when I think bow ties, I think old men. I don't know, maybe that's
vaudeville showman where they spin around in circles and light up.
But if you can pull it off, go for it. I know I couldn't.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm sorry. So we've got a former Canadian former Canadian Minister of Defense talking about a UFO cover-up. We've got France saying, "Hey, here's the truth."
Mm-hmm. What about China? Has China come up with anything? I mean, surely they would have some kind of info.
Yeah, you think so? I have no knowledge of it, but who knows? I'm sure they do.
You get a lot of reports of UFOs. in Central and South America too, and I can't imagine those governments would. Well, I don't know. I don't really know what they're doing with that information, but you get a lot of reports south of the border, so to speak.
Yeah, sooner or later the dam has got to break, and it'll all come out in the wash there.
Right.
Tell us about the Project Mogul balloon.
Okay. Well, it's actually it was a very secret project. It was a project that carried a train of microphones up into the upper atmosphere to detect sonic vibrations from possible nuclear explosions in the Soviet Union. And so obviously that would be a very top secret, high prioritized project there. But the thing still used balloons and radar targets and microphones, off the shelf material. There was nothing classified about the material. The only thing that was classified was the mission. So
yeah, I'm looking at Why would they use balloons to detect these things?
I'm sorry. Say it again.
And Mogul, why would they use balloons to detect Soviet nuclear explosions?
Balloons, of course, is a train of balloons to hoist the microphones and electronics into the air.
Oh, I see.
And I'm not sure how high what their working altitude was, but they used radar targets to track them and to find out where their destination was, where they came down, and things like that. So again, they used off-the-shelf material, but because it was the mission that was classified, but not the material.
Right.
So the balloon is a balloon is a balloon.
Yeah, it seems pretty simplistic, actually, but probably would be very effective too.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, doesn't make any noise or anything. Yeah.
How you doing this afternoon, or this evening, rather?
This is Chuck, by the
Jesse
way.
Marcel, yeah, that's what I was about to say. This is Chuck. I was about to ask you, actually, about some more reflectors I'm seeing in the Project Mogul that appear to look, I guess, like maybe some sort of hieroglyphs or something like that.
Geometric shapes.
I guess that I'm reading here show that they're parts of a RAWIN target.
RAWIN target, yeah.
Reflectors. Could you explain a little about those?
Well, they're just corner reflectors, so that they would reflect. If a radar signal hit them, they'd reflect it back in the same direction. So like a corner reflector would be. So again, if you shot the balloon with a radar target from radar station from any angle, the corner reflector would reflect the signal right back to the point of origin.
And this is most definitely not what you saw at 11 years
no,
old.
No,
I take. Okay.
And I guess in the early days they used Scotch tape with the flowers from to affix the foil to the balsa wood sticks or the kite sticks, and the tape was an inch wide, I guess, and with obvious flower designs on it because I've seen some of it. So, which is a total, nothing like I saw.
Now, one of the arguments against Roswell is the fact that they basically criticize your father and misrepresenting the material that's found and that he should be discredited or whatever and what have you, and that his credibility is sort of questionable. That's what a lot of skeptics would say. You place a pretty good argument for that against that. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I guess had I not seen it too, I'd say, well, I don't know, but I do know his training would have taught him the difference between radar target and what he found out there, because he had gone through radar school and where he learned all the mechanics and the operational characteristics of RAWIN radar targets. Mm-hmm. So again, had he seen that, he would not have brought it home.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also, didn't he have he had a pretty prestigious career after that? A lot of good reports.
These were hand-picked guys. This is the atomic bomb unit, the 509th, and every crew member, every man on the team there was hand-picked for their intelligence and their honesty and truthfulness and their objectivity.
Yeah. So I mean, clearly, if he, if he had shamed the government somehow, that they wouldn't have promoted him or said good things about him, they probably would have forced him into an early retirement, I would imagine.
Yeah. He left the Army of his own volition years later. So.
Yeah. Oh, okay, guys, listen, the numbers are 1-877-722-7382, locally 336-996-1596. That's 1-877-SCARE-YOU2. I just realized that I totally forgot to give the numbers at the beginning of the hour. So call in, Jesse Marcel Jr. Scott, you got something?
I think Chuck does.
Okay.
I hate to ask you just because it's a tad morbid, but I was wondering if your father had ever mentioned seeing any alien corpses or bodies that were reportedly taken to, let me see here, Dayton, Ohio, right field.
Yeah. He never did bring that up with me.
Okay.
And had he seen those, I kind of wondered, but maybe he was very secretive about that. But no, he never did talk about anything really exotic like that.
Now, your father was a veterinarian.
No.
No?
Veterinarian?
Yes.
No, he was actually a radio amateur operator, and he repaired radios and television sets when he retired from the military.
Okay, I'm looking at. I was looking at another part of the book. My father was a veterinarian.
Yeah, my father-in-law was a veterinarian.
Okay. Yeah, this. Okay, I'm in your wife's portion of the story then, and she talks about calling out to investigate cattle mutilations in the area, and talked about some of the stuff that he saw. What do you think that this? Do you think that this has something to do with the whole UFO thing, or do you think this is a totally different phenomenon?
Well, I've never seen the mutilations, but some people have idea that it's really exotic. There's some things that animal predation could not produce, but I really don't know. I've not been on the. I'm not a researcher, so I don't know about that. But I do know that some of the researchers say that this was cut with a laser. Their blood was totally drained, and no footprints around the carcass and so forth. Other people are just as sure that it's all animal predation.
Oh. Now, why do you think the government tried to come back out with a definitive answer as late as the 90s when they released that 1,000-page book of the true story of what really happened?
Yeah, that's right.
Why do you think they waited that long?
Methinks they don't protest too much. I don't know. If they would just let it drop, people would forget about it, but they keep bringing it up themselves.
Right.
They're so eager to kill the story. So that means there's something to it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's essentially what happened after Roswell. I mean, it did sort of just kind of fade out until your father came back out and told the real side of it.
But they're desperate to kill the story.
Yeah.
And I just don't know why.
Well, I mean, clearly it's made its own momentum now to the point at which it doesn't matter whether the government tries to just stop talking about it or, defend their answers or whatever. I mean, I think there are too many people out there now who think otherwise.
So people, it's too late to lock the horses going. You can't close the corral door now. It's too late.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people believe that these aliens are in fact demons that have come down to. That's some of the stories that I've heard.
That's. Yeah, I don't think so.
All right. What do you feel about these stories that people tell about having alien implants put inside their body surgically?
Boy, that's a weird one too. I have no idea why they'd want to put implants. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's another weird story, but I know it makes the rounds too. And it'd be nice if they could get one of these implants and determine if it is truly exotic, like using isotopes from that are not familiar on Earth, metal isotopes. They could do isotopic analysis and determine if it came from another solar system.
Yeah, and I would think, that if, a race could build a craft that could travel light years across the vast darkness of space, that they probably could study or analyze human beings without the use of implants. You know what I mean? Like they would be able to,
or at least without an RF locator.
Or
I think so. So
now you believe that if these aliens are what they are, you believe that they're from what I gather from your book, you believe that they're generally gentle creatures with no intent to harm us.
Yeah, I think they're scientists. I think they're like we would be. If we're visiting another system, we'd be very curious about the life forms there, and I think that's what they are with us. Some people say no, they're not quite that kind. That they're that there's different races. Maybe some of them are okay, but others might be very bad for us. But I think if we encounter something like that, if we had something that they want, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah,
I think they're just scientifically curious about.
Then we'd have to smoke them out.
Smoke them out. Oh my gosh. But
that's what we would do if we encountered an alien race. I'm sure that eventually the bombs would go.
I hate to bring politics into this too, but we're a warlike society. We've been fighting. We never have peace on Earth. It's just for thousands and thousands of years we've been fighting and scrapping with each other, learning how to kill better and more effectively. Mm-hmm. And they may be truly afraid of us.
That's very true. I mean, like looking at a human standpoint. I mean, if we were going to if we were going to explore and find a new civilization or some brave new land out there in outer space, I mean, history's proven that the people who discover new lands tend to, make haste in trying to exterminate them or subjugate them and plunder whatever it is for their resources. I mean, you're right. It seems that's how we seem to be.
Seeing some of the horrible stuff in Iraq really opened my eyes as to what a primitive society we really are.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, these guys are only a generation away from a camel, if you really think about it.
No,
I'm being serious. I mean,
that's politically correct.
Yeah, well, we're not. We don't do that on this show, but we don't. They are. They're about a generation away from being on a camel. What do you expect? They're still fighting a war in the 700s. And come on.
Yeah, I saw classic examples of what you're talking about, and it just human life is worthless out there. It really is.
Dee had a question about something called the Allen Star Child. The alien Star Child skull that was found about 900 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was found
900 years old.
900 years old. I see. Have you heard about this at all, and if you have, what do you think of it?
I saw it, and it's very unusual. It does not look human to me, but unless it's some sort of malformation. But I don't. It certainly is different from our skulls. It's not a normal human skull, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, obviously, I don't know anything about this, so I mean, where was it found?
Yeah, I'm not sure where it was found.
Okay. That's kind of weird, but
yeah, very strange.
Your website is www.theroswelllegacy.com. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's one, and then the other one is marceljr.com. We have two of them.
Okay. Is that a good way of finding your book? Can we find that on your website?
Can you buy it on that site?
Yeah, if somebody wants to research the book or at least get some idea what it is, they can certainly open that website up and can even order it if they wish.
Okay. Now, I'm assuming you can get this on Amazon as well?
Yeah, Amazon too, yes.
Okay.
There are several sources for the book.
So if they buy it from you, will you sign it?
Oh, yeah. That's what I do. I sign these darn books, and if somebody wants it personalized, I'll do that too. So
there you go, guys.
Yeah,
www.theroswelllegacy.com. Get your signed copy of Jesse Marcel.
It's an honor, for me to do that because I think people truly are interested in this thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You can't beat that with a stick, though. Getting it signed copy and.
I mean, this is a historical record,
straight from the source. I mean,
I try to keep it factual. It's not a real long book because I wanted to avoid a lot of verbosity, so to speak, but just stick to the facts. Just like Sergeant Friday and Dragnet.
Just the facts, man.
Yeah.
Why do you think your father never put pen to paper on something like this?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said, why do you think your father never wrote a book about this before he passed away?
Oh, he was not the kind who would do that.
Okay.
And it wasn't until late I thought, I would. The only reason I wrote it is because I wanted to get the story out because I'm not sure how much longer I'll be around myself. And so again, I started writing this in Iraq when I thought, I could meet my end at any time here, so I better get this thing out on the press there. So.
Now, you're still in the military, correct?
Well, I retired in December of 2005.
Okay, well, good. Then that means you can tell us what you really think, right?
Yeah, pretty much so.
I'm curious about what a lot of people say that's going on over there, and do you think that it's something that we should continue being a part of?
Well, are you talking about the Iraq War?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, you know what? I was not sure about this when I went out there, and because I was like a young little kid on the block with eyes open and, and dodging things. And but after I saw what was going on, the mass graves that Saddam Hussein was filling with the Kurds and the Kuwaitis, I thought, yes, this is like the Holocaust all over again, just like Nazi Germany. And I could give you some horrible examples of what we saw in those graves. Like a woman holding her baby, both shot in the head, the baby still had a pacifier in its mouth. Things like that are not going on now. Sure, there's mayhem out there, but not that horrible stuff, that mass grave type stuff.
Do you think if we were to pull out that these things would return?
Oh, man, the whole place would collapse. The Sunni and the Shia would be at each other's throats. The Kurds would be down there. So we're kind of like a holding action. But I think we're making progress if you listen to General Petraeus. So my person is yes. I'm glad I went. And I tell you right now, if they call me back, I'd go back in a heartbeat.
Wow.
Because I believe in the mission.
Well, it's good. It's good to still have some patriots around out there.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, the soldiers are like that. I did not meet a guy that was against the war. I mean, they all had a purpose. They all felt they had a mission to do and accomplish, and I felt the same way. It's something that you got to see though to believe it though.
Yeah. What do you think about Afghanistan? Do we need to continue that, or do we need to hand it over to NATO?
That's another horrible. The Taliban, they're Sunni Muslims. They're horrible people. Kidnapping these Korean hostages and killing two of the guys, and it just shows there's no respect for human life by these people.
Now, how long did you spend over there, Colonel?
I was there for 13 months.
Wow. That's a good stretch of time.
It's long enough to get a lot of close calls, and thank God I'm still alive.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of close calls there, but at any rate, I would go back again if called.
Now, how many in the course of your military career, how many battlefields have you seen?
I'm sorry.
In the course of your military career, how many times have you been in war?
Well, it started with the Cuban Missile Crisis, although that was an almost war.
Yeah.
Well, I was down there south of Cuba, getting ready to go on shore with a bunch of Marines. And then, of course, the Vietnam War came along. I was on board a ship. There we were hauling Marines around with that. But the only time I really got shot at was in Iraq.
Wow. Man. How would you compare this? A lot of people compare Iraq to Vietnam. What do you say to those people?
Well, that's a hard comparison. Now, I think we pulled out prematurely from Vietnam, but then again, I don't know because I had no real strong feelings about that. I know we were there and we didn't finish the job, but I think we got to finish the job in Iraq.
Okay.
I think there's no one who would not say we need to finish the job.
Do you think that would entail going into Iran?
God, I hope not. But a lot of the mortars that were shot at me came from Iran, so we knew where the weapons were coming from, the munitions were coming from.
Yeah, just a really ugly situation
altogether. It's an ugly situation, but morale is high.
Well, it'll eventually come around. Let's get back to Roswell, though. I mean, I know we do jump around like that.
Tend to get on the topics
terrible.
like that.
What do you think, or what do the experts think that how this thing ran? I mean, how did it fly around? Obviously, it didn't use jetpacks or propellers like we got. I mean, what did it use?
They have ways of transportation that we have no knowledge of, no inkling of. I know that NASA is looking into a variety of space travel. The warping in space. If you have enough energy, to actually collapse space in front of you, expand it back of you, so you actually pull along, so that in your own time frame you can exceed the speed of light to an outside observer. And I think that it's got to be something like that. The obscure space travel thing.
Yeah, there's an interesting diagram of it in the book that I was looking at. It seemed, I mean, I don't know.
It's got to be something like that. They may get the energy from space itself, from the energy of space. Space is loaded with energy.
That's true, but do you think that had something to do when they got on the planet Earth and all of a sudden they're surrounded by atmospheric conditions instead of outer space. You know, was
it's all conjecture, you know. But
well, that's true.
I don't know. But I do know that they're interested in us, and so far, not to my knowledge, they've had any caused any harm for us. But I think we're just under the microscope just to see if we're going to survive our nuclear ambitions here.
Well, we're running up on our last break of the night, and when we come back, I'd like to talk to you about the material that this stuff was made of that you saw with your own eyes. But we're going to take our short break, our last break of the night. Guys, call in 877-722-7382. That's toll-free in the United States and Canada, or locally 336-996-1596. You're listening to World of the Unexplained. Tonight our guest is Colonel Jesse Marcel, Jr. Please call in with any questions, and we'll be right back after this. And last chance to call in, guys, and speak with Jesse Marcel, Jr. about Roswell, what really happened. You can visit his website, www.theroswelllegacy.com, and pick up a copy of this book, and he'll sign it for you, personalize it for you if you want him to.
Can't beat it.
Yeah, that's right. Can't beat it. This is our last segment with him, so if you do want to call in, the number is 877-722-7382. That's 1-877-722-7382, or locally 336-996-1596. Colonel, I see that you've got pictures here in your book that I thought was kind of neat, and you're going to have to explain this to me because I'm not exactly familiar with this practice. But according to the book, it says the B-29 crews, when they went on raids over Japan, they would frequently sign a dollar bill called a short snorter on their way back to the base.
Yeah.
And you've got pictures of some of your father's collection. Can you explain to us what exactly those are?
Well, they're dollar bills that when the crew would sign on the way back from a mission, because they're still allowed to sign it. and it's kind of a collector's item, and I think most bomb crews did that in B-29s or B-17s, B-24s, whatever, World War II is. And I think they use that to buy a drink in the Oak Club,
I'm sure that the prices then were better than they are now.
Yeah, a dollar went a little bit further.
That's true. Scott, I got $5. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. That's hey, back in the day, my dad always talks about being able to fill up the gas tank, grab a pack of cigarettes, and take a date out for $5 or whatever. It's like a nickel for a pack of cigarettes. I was like, come on now.
Don't work that way anymore.
No, it does not.
The printing presses have gotten too busy with printing money.
Oh man, it's terrible. Yeah. I want to ask you about the material that that your father brought home to you that you saw that looked like foil. How thick was this stuff?
Well, it was not thick. It's pretty thin as a matter of fact, but it really didn't have the consistency of aluminum foil nowadays. But it could be confused with that. Now, I've heard it said that you could crumple it up and it would unfold just like metal with the memory. And I guess I didn't try that. I wish I would have. But my dad described that to me very carefully. That this stuff would unbend. And he said, as a matter of fact, one of the men in his office, I wish I knew where these guys are now, tried to bend it with a sledgehammer and to make a permanent crease in it, but it just sprang right back out.
Wow.
Didn't increase it with a sledgehammer.
That's fantastic.
No,
we're different. Different. So.
No, I guess why I'm asking that's because you would think if it were from the account when you say consistency or not consistency, but when you give me the image of tinfoil in my head, I think about something that is not only flimsy but also something that will crumple easily.
Yeah, very bendable.
and I just wonder what part of the ship that would possibly come from. I wouldn't think that it would be a main stabilizing kind of piece of the ship.
Well, in thinking about this, this has been in the back of my mind that maybe this thing had an in-flight explosion, and this blew a bunch of chaff out through the side, and that's what caused the crash of the major part of it some miles down the road there.
Oh.
And what we're actually seeing is something from the interior.
That definitely could be a possibility.
Maybe that's what this came from.
Definitely. So did you? And this was the only pieces that you saw were the ones that your father brought in. Did your father get to see any of the other pieces of the wreckage that were more, I guess, stable, maybe possibly outside?
Well, he possibly did, because what they did. What happened is we would talk about this as years go by when I felt comfortable with talking about it. And in 1980 something, just before he died, he had gone out to Roswell, to the debris field, at the behest of one of the TV stations in New Orleans. And I asked him jokingly, well, was there any of the debris still out there? And he said, oh, no, they vacuumed that up. That was the exact word. They vacuumed it up.
Wow.
So they did not leave any piece of it out there for anybody else to find or stumble over. Although I know that Bill Brazel, the rancher's son, I guess before it was vacuumed up, found a piece of it. He put it in the saddlebags, and sometime later he was at a bar in Socorro or Corona, wherever like that, and he made it known that he had a piece of it. And he said it wasn't long, but some gentleman knocked on his door, ranch house, and said, you have some Air Force property, and we intend to recover it.
Wow.
We intend to cover it.
And so we're not talking about something that's as mundane as a weather balloon or tire.
Oh.
And I heard him say that with my own ears, because we were sitting at the table with him with the Japanese film crew out there. And he described how this anecdotal event where they came and got the debris that he let it be known they had a piece of. I'm not sure how long after the event that he let it be known, but they were very deadly serious about getting it.
Wow. Do you know of any other experiments that were done with this material, like the sledgehammer incident that you described?
Not really. I think I heard my dad say he tried to cut it with his pocket knife, try to burn it, and nothing like that. So, but that was the only event that they talked about, where this guy had tried to put a permanent crease into it with a sledgehammer, but not successful.
Strange. I wonder if this is just totally speculation or whatever, but why we haven't seen another crash somewhere else in the world. I mean, obviously it happened in Roswell. It might have happened somewhere else. I mean, what's the possibility of it happening again?
Well,
how do you think the world will react?
What happens once usually happens again.
Yeah, that's.
But maybe Russia has some stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because these scientists made it be known that they had something like this, and they wished through the spirit of glasnost that we could work together.
That's a shame too that we didn't take up that offer. But assuming there is a crash somewhere in the United States again, do you think the government's going to be more jumping on the ball and whisking it away, or I mean, how do you think that'll play out?
There's some stories where they did that exactly. I forgot where it was, but something came to Earth. I'm not even sure where it was, but the Army was right there pronto to recover it.
What do you think of the, we had talked about this, I guess, a few weeks ago with Jason Offutt, and he wrote a book called Haunted Missouri, and he talked about a pre-Roswell crash that supposedly occurred in Missouri, I think back in 1941.
Yeah, somewhere
Are you familiar
in
with this?
Uh-huh. Yeah, and there's another one out of Aurora, Texas in 1897.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Jim Mars.
They call that Aurora's Roswell.
Didn't they say that somewhere in one of those cemeteries that there was supposedly like a body that was buried?
Yeah, and what happened is, I guess the sky was full of flying machines then too, but people didn't know. They call them balloons, or not balloons, but some kind of aircraft. At that time, this was before the Wright brothers even flew, and but there was machines flying through there then, and reportedly one of these crashed into a Judge Proctor's windmill just out of Aurora, Texas, and the people described the aviator or the passenger as being a small person not of this earth, and they buried him out there in the cemetery.
Wait, Chuck's just got something up. A Russia UFO crash and recovery, 1968.
Huh. Wow.
It says on or about 1969.
Awesome. Yeah.
There's a photo here, and they're standing in front of this large UFO that's like in the ground. And where did you get this from, Chuck? This is wow. I don't know if that's a hoax or what. Is it?
You never.
It looks real.
Well, if the picture was taken prior to computer generation of photographs, you kind of wonder if it may.
Oh, wait a minute. Here's a still frame, supposedly of footage of an autopsy of an alien
Oh,
body taken
man.
from the crash site allegedly recovered in 1968 by alleged KGB documents.
I wonder about that.
Yeah, you wonder about those.
How could that get on the internet like that, you know?
Autopsy of the Roswell thing, too. I think that's not...
But I think, dude, one particular crash in that area of the world does kind of remind me of something. I don't know if it was a crash or not, but are you aware of the Tunguska incident that happened in the 20s and 30s?
The Tunguska?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was 1908 out of Siberia. It was supposedly a comet blew up high in the atmosphere and blew a bunch of trees down, and they've never found any parts of it or anything like that.
Okay, so you've
been speculation that maybe this was a spaceship that blew up and that was it. But I think probably it was a comet that came down and blew up with enough force to down a bunch of trees out there. That's
right. There's some guy that wrote a book about that. The Fire Came By. I think that's the name of the book. I've only seen The Fire Came By. That was the name of the book. I was about Tunguska, but I've never picked it up, and I only saw it like one time briefly, and never again. I guess I need to look into that. But
I'm gonna ask you one more question and give you the final word, Colonel.
Okay.
What do you think about these stories that people tell about being abducted?
Oh boy, you know, that's almost like the implants, you know. I don't know. Yeah, I know Bud Hopkins. He's written a lot of articles about this, and he's absolutely convinced that this is a real event. And I have to be an agnostic here on that. But he has some very interesting events there, but he's convinced of it. And maybe it does happen. I don't know what the purpose would be, but who knows the mind of an alien?
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely a sticking point. You know, they are alien, not only in appearance and technology, but also probably in personality and psychology too.
Yep.
They don't think like we do, and I think a lot of times we make the mistake of thinking, oh, well, they have the same hopes and motivations that we do. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. You know.
Right. Exactly.
Well, Colonel, thank you so much for being a guest on our program. Well, we've got another phone call here. We'll see if they're important enough to let them on with you. But I was just going to give you the opportunity to take the final word here before.
Let's see what.
We'll see what they want.
What John Norway back there is picking up.
Yeah, he's writing, so it must mean that someone wants to talk to you.
Okay.
Chuck's got some quick question. Hey, I'll let you ask.
Excuse me, are you familiar with Operation Paperclip, which was a Nazi, I guess, born program? I guess it had been tested in 45 in Prague, supposedly. But yeah, this is something else, I guess, I've found here that maybe has something to do with the Roswell crash and maybe why they had kept it under wraps for so long. It says here it was declassified in 1973.
Yeah, I've heard of the Operation Paperclip. Was that the rocket research, the V2s? Or?
Well, it says here that Werner von Braun was involved in it, but it looks like the chief designer was a guy named Victor Schauberger.
Schellenberger, yeah.
Okay, so you are familiar with it.
Yeah,
You think there's any chance that that's possibly what was out there, reversed or engineered Nazi flying craft?
Well, I guess anything is possible. You know, anything is. If it's physically possible to happen, it would happen or could happen given enough time. But who knows?
That's true. We got that caller now. It's Ellis from Greensboro, North Carolina. I think I might know this guy. Ellis, are you there?
Hey, Trent. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, cool. How's it going over there in GB?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Oh, pretty good. What's your question for Jesse Marcel?
Well, I'm just kind of thinking off the top of my head here, but yeah, for Dr. Marcel, I and you guys also, I guess, I was just curious if I was going to ask about pre-Roswell sightings and landings and crashings and so forth, but you guys have already kind of touched on that. So what occurred to me was, in the age of the Internet, has there been a vast expansion of reportings of UFOs, or has that not really changed things that much? It just seems like with the Internet, everyone reports everything of interest from their latest change of socks to, perhaps.
There's a lot on the Internet about sightings and things like that, and you're right. It really opens the door for instant communication. But since I'm not really in the research end of this thing, I don't know for sure. But the internet would be certainly a logical way to spread the word pretty fast.
Huh. What else you got for us, Ellis? Anything else?
No, probably not. That's
okay. Well, no big deal. Glad to hear from you.
Okay. Well, thanks for doing the show, guys, and thanks for answering the question. And take care.
All right. See you later.
Thanks so much, Ellis.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, Colonel, I'm going to give you the final word.
Well, I think we're being visited for sure, and I kind of think these creatures, or I won't say creatures, are distant cousins, are interested in us. I don't think they mean us any harm, and I think that it's just a matter of time before the whole secrecy is out to everybody. And I think that the world deserves to know what happened in Roswell, and I would hope that that this is divulged sooner than later, because I'd like to still be alive when it happens.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Well, Colonel, Dr. Colonel...
Colonel Doctor. How does that go anyway? You go Colonel Doctor or Dr. Colonel? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, is it Dr. Colonel or is it Colonel Doctor?
Oh, in the military, they don't... It's not a doctor, you're colonel.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
Train your medical...
I see. I see.
I guess it would be Colonel Jesse Marcel Jr., M.D. Huh?
Maybe.
Yeah?
Maybe that might be it.
Well, thank you so
much. Mention your training, that your field of specialty. It's just Colonel Marcel, whatever.
Okay.
That's where the military is.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the program tonight. If you would do me one favor before you go, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Could you say this is Jesse Marcel Jr. and you're listening to World of the Unexplained?
This is Jesse Marcel Jr. and you're listening to the World of Unexplained.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We're going to use that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Hey, guys. Yeah, it's my pleasure.
All right. Thanks so much. Have a good night.
Take care.
Thanks for the invitation. You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. The Colonel Doctor...
Man, that was,
Colonel. I guess it would be Colonel. I don't know how to do it.
He just says Colonel Jesse Marcel Jr. Yeah. That's what he says.
A doctor, a patriot, a alien technology observer,
Fantastic.
An author.
All around nice guy too.
And nice guy, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of information.
Ranch owner.
Yeah.
Rancher.
Montanan.
Montanan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if he's born in
Big Sky country.
Never asked him if any UFOs were crashed on his ranch up there.
Well, I'm sure no UFOs have crashed on his ranch because he said he's never seen one before, other than the
yeah. You're busy there doing other things, Chuck.
Yeah.
I understand.
It's kind of like when Chuck re-asked.
Yeah.
When Chuck re-asked one of the questions that we asked earlier.
Synergizing all day.
I've done that before though too, man. I'm not. I've been in my zone over here in the chat room or something, and then I'm kind of half listening and not, and then I'll go ahead and ask the same question. The guest is like thinking, I could get the tone of, I just answered that, you jerk.
Yeah. That's probably why I don't have a computer over here, so I could stay frosty.
That's right.
And D doesn't either, or
That's
I'm sorry,
right.
John Norway and Carl Latvia over here.
Yeah, but you got to watch out for little John China.
Little John China can sometimes throw you a monkey
and myself,
Hank
Estonia.
That's just great. I think we ought to form a crime fighting team.
I'm telling you, Ron Mexico. I just can't believe that the media has totally ignored this. Why hasn't anyone besides us brought up the Ron Mexico connection?
I mean, it's too funny to ignore.
RonMexico.com and
check it out, people.
Maybe watch a little more ESPN or NFL Network.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Maybe
if you watch the sports channels.
I don't ever watch sports.
Yeah. I'm just, I'm wondering though. But you would think that some of these other talk radio pundits would pick it up and kind of roll with it, just because it's humorous.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
It's classic.
It's like
gold.
for the guy that brought you VD with a code name to fighting dogs. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's like, how bad do you actually get? When you have a code name Iran, Mexico, because you're getting tested for VD, and then on top of that, you're at dog fights.
Man,
I mean, come on.
let's just.
This guy's life must be some kind of, something.
Yeah. I mean, seriously. I mean, well, it's comic gold, and we're
that's just the stuff we know about. I mean, that's
that's true. It could all just.
So if you know that little bit, you can only imagine the stuff that he's getting away with.
Yeah.
All I gotta say is it's the Michael Vick experience, man.
The Michael Vick experience. Did you guys hear about? I read this the other day, last night actually. I was reading this. The guy that's suing McDonald's for $10 million. Have you heard this?
No, but I can't imagine what it's for.
Now check this out. You're going to like this story.
Uh-huh.
All right. I wish I could have been the guy to file the complaint on this. All right. This guy, his mother, and a friend of theirs all go to McDonald's to a drive-through, and he orders 2 Quarter Pounders without cheese.
2 Quarter Pounders.
Because he has he's allergic to cheese, is what the article I read stated.
Allergic to cheese.
He's allergic to cheese.
So he's lactose intolerant, not allergic to cheese.
Well, I didn't say lactose intolerant. It just said allergic to cheese.
Where the heck has there ever been a cheese allergy?
I don't know.
No, hold the Parmesan, sir.
I
have a cheese allergy. Okay, go ahead,
So
Scott.
anyway, he makes this apparent to the people at the drive-through speaker. Then they go up to the window and he double ask them, hey, you sure they don't have cheese? I'm allergic to cheese. Oh, no, no cheese. You're fine. The 3 of them ride back to his mother's place where they're having movie night.
Ooh.
So they've got the lights off, the TV's on, and so they're undoing their bags of McDonald's goodies. And he bites down on the burger without checking
cheese
if it has cheese. And, of course, as you might have guessed, it had cheese. So his mother, frantic, is dialing the McDonald's store back to tell them. Not 911, but the McDonald's store.
But he has a cheese allergy. This is serious business.
To tell them that they messed the order up. Well, she had to cut the call short because they had to rush her son to the emergency room. Apparently, he's having some kind of an allergic reaction that's bad enough for him to have to go to the emergency room. The bill comes back. It's for about $1,400. They treated him quickly. And I don't know what they did. I don't know those details. I'm hoping I can find. I mean, it is public record, and maybe I can search and find it. I'd like to know more details about it. But they did all this worth $1,400 worth of damages here. So he turned around and he told McDonald's what had happened. McDonald's offered to pay, from what I've read in the article, $700 of that, half of his medical bills. When the lawyer got involved, they offered to pay the entire medical bill. And now they're being sued for $10 million for intentional infliction of emotional distress, as well as negligence. And I just thought, I was like, wow, it's amazing.
Can I sue them for being fat?
No, otherwise I would have beat you to that. But no, you can't sue them for being fat. Although that has been tried before.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it has. I'm just amazed. Cheese allergy.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. When you say lactose intolerant, something that would have to get you rushed to the emergency room would not be, in my mind, a lactose intolerant kind of situation.
No, it's like a real cheese allergy.
It must be a real cheese allergy.
So I mean, here on Woe 2 tonight, we talked about Roswell cheese allergies and buy your Gap insurance.
Yeah.
How about that, man? What a mixed bag of delicious chocolates that we have prepared for you, the listeners, tonight. And
without cheese,
and even the ones with, always without cheese, because we are very conscious of our listeners' needs.
Wait a minute, let's hit that official website of Michael Vick, Chuck. I want to see. I hope this doesn't have sound. Well, it won't come out, will it? All right.
Hopefully not. Yeah.
Oh, look, the Michael Kahn Vick T-shirt, as seen on ABC, CBS, and Fox News. The Michael Kahn Vick T-shirt. Wow. I don't. We can't even get on there right now. Yeah.
Forget it.
But check out ronmexico.com.
You'll learn your secret name, the ultimate disguise.
It really is.
It will probably have some country.
And if you type in Michael Vick, it'll come back and say Ron Mexico.
see what happens when it types in Darth Vader. But I think you guys
when
you
type in Ron Mexico, does it come back with anything? It comes back as Michael Vick. It comes back as Michael Vick.
It's the only one that does that. I mean, it doesn't reverse.
We tried Darth Vader. What was that?
Sunny Christmas Island.
Sunny Christmas Island.
Which is a very pleasant place in the South Pacific.
We should get those people that designed that website on the show.
He's from Sweden or the Netherlands, I want to say.
We'll call him. I don't care. But
crashed his website.
Oh, it's down.
Yep.
They probably hacked it. But yeah, we should get the guy that runs ronmexico.com.
That's crazy. That's got
just for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, just to say, hey,
because it's funny.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll just run this Ron Mexico line for the next 3 months.
But how about that book, The Roswell Legacy? Totally not related to ronmexico.com or whatever.
I know.
Jesse Marcel Jr. Check it out. It's a great read. He was a great guy.
Not like Ron Mexico.
Not like Ron Mexico. Jesse Marcel Jr., fantastic guest, and the book is very exciting. You can get it on his website.
The RoswellLegacy.com.
Right, the RoswellLegacy.com. Or MarcelJr.com, and of course Amazon.com, and all your
but
local
don't buy it from
retailers.
Amazon because you won't get it signed.
Yeah, Jesse Marcel will sign it himself.
If you want it signed, go to his site directly and request it and say, Jesse, personalize this for me. I want this in my history tome to give to my grandkids one day.
Because it's a factual.
He didn't sign my press copy, by the way.
Well, that's all right.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Yeah, we got it from his publicist, but sometimes they sign them to us and sometimes they don't. It's kind of weird. I don't know how that works.
Well,
it's that time again.
It is that time.
Next week, Waleed Shubat, a former Islamo terrorist, is coming on to tell us about what it was like to be a terrorist, and now he is a born again Christian. Waleed Shubat. I'll be putting that information up later.
Yeah, that's very cool.
This is Jay Scott, your only JD DJ on the KarmaCast, Omni Sound, and all those other radio networks. Thank you, KWSS, East Hill Radio, Fox, and all of you other supporters. Omaha, Robin Valley. Thanks, guys.
This is Trent Lackey. We're coming to you from Kernersville, North Carolina, a small town where we talk about big things, as always. And Chuck, take it out.
We out.